You will apologize at once, or I shall be placed under arrest.
I apologize for not being entirely honest with you. I apologize for not revealing my true feelings. I apologize, sir, for not telling you sooner that you're a degenerate, sadistic old man. And you can go to hell before I apologize to you now or ever again.
Welcome back to another episode of The Harbor. I'm your host, the Kino Cowboy, and with me, like usual, is Austin Casher, the man upstairs. And by man upstairs, I mean he lives 2 hours above me.
Shouldn't be 3 hours above you.
Oh yeah, good for you. Anyway, today I think this is the first Kubrick we've done. Pretty sure. Yeah, pretty sure.
Well, this is appropriate because it's only the second movie he really ever did. Mainstream. He has The Killing before this, and then
yeah, I wanted to talk about this because every movie show on YouTube talks about The Shining or 2001, and eventually I would like to talk about those, or Clockwork Orange. Those are like the big three, but Paths of Glory is one underseen flick when it comes to Kubrick. I'm sure it was bigger back in the day, but I don't see people talking about it nearly as much as his other stuff.
No.
And obviously Kubrick likes war pictures. He did this. He did Dr. Strangelove, which satirizes the absurdity of war and violence. And then he did Full Metal Jacket, which kind of is more similar to Paths of Glory in the way that it shows the audience things they may not want to hear or see about the inner workings of the armed forces and whatnot. So
America's occupation and the mental health. This is more straight on anti-war.
Yeah.
As opposed to his other war films, which, Dr. Strangelove is absolutely anti-war, but it's showing you the absurdity and how much the people who call the shots don't really give a flying fuck. But this also does that, but it's 10 times darker.
Bleak, very bleak.
It's the most, I would say it's the most bleak ending in his repertoire. Maybe A Clockwork Orange is
but that's just a completely different scale. It's not as in touch with our reality right now. So obviously Clockwork Orange has plenty to say about desensitizing and all this different shit about society, but this is like very much still in line with today. And I think about all the atrocities that went on in the Iraq War, even though Americans were not losing. We were just trying to basically almost conquer Iraq. But I've heard a lot of stories, a lot of troops that have killed, that have killed themselves, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. But because that's the closest thing we have. Because this movie is made in 1957, and that's 40 years after it. And I'm thinking, well, for us, 40 years ago would be 1983. So it's a little
1983 would have been, the beginning of like Desert Storm, Desert Shield.
Yeah, but not really. What I'm saying is, like, it's weird. It's wild as fuck. They made this movie in World War I was only 40 years ago. To them, that's crazy as fuck,
Well, World War III is only a couple of years forward to us.
I know, dude. I'm fucking stoked on it.
We'll get all kinds that come out of that, dude.
Fucking World War III Kino afterwards. I'll be worth it for the cinema. The thing about this movie is, like, on the surface, if you didn't know any better, you just saw this playing on TV, you would think it's just another one of those heroic big war movies that your peepaw would watch on the TV all day or something, just one of those movies.
TCM fucking fodder.
Yeah, just one of those random ass things, but it's
this Veterans Day we're playing 7 hours of nothing but American propaganda.
It's just like that's what it plays like. But then as soon as it starts, you're like, oh no, wait a minute. This is done with severe intricacy.
Well, the big uniqueness of this is Well, for one, if you didn't actively listen and know, because they do not speak in an accent or anything, this is about the French army in World War One.
Yeah, which is weird because like they're speaking like they're taught like uppity British.
They just all sound like Cary Grant, like
Yeah,
old school, like actors, which does take away from them the immersion a little bit. But the story itself, whether it's specifically French or not, is pretty fucking nuts. And we're throwing into trench warfare and into like corruption at like the higher levels of this, and it shows how irreplaceable and how the higher ups will never take any blame, but they can find people to find blame for certain aspects because of a failed mission in trench warfare. 3 innocent men are executed.
an impossible task from the start.
Yeah,
which is introduced. The inception of this is the beginning with the generals George and Paul, and Paul's trying to say, well, I forget which is which, honestly, but he's like basically sitting him down, like, okay, you're gonna have to tell your men this is what's going on. We have to go and try and conquer the ant hill, I think is what they call it.
Yeah, no, it's German
And
position.
immediately you're like, okay, this is an elevated, quote unquote, I know people hate that term, elevated war film, because Kubrick's all about movements with his blocking, and you watch these two generals talk, and they're not just sitting and talking to each other. They get up and walk around. They move closer and away from each other. George, there's a part where he just like, he makes himself a drink while he contemplates. And the further he walks away, the further he's kind of trying to distance himself from this idea and the implications of him having to be basically the one who sets it in motion. And even though the other general is the one who's like, hey buddy, sorry, you're gonna have to do this.
That's what we always think about. It's always the higher ups that are sending these younger kids to their deaths.
Yeah, and we see that throughout
mission.
the movie when they're like, all this crazy shit's going on, and they're in these extravagantly laid out French rooms and drinking.
Brings me back to Dr. Strangelove, though. There is no war in the war room.
Yeah, but it's interesting how tone is everything and how bleak this is when he could have tweaked it and played it like satirical, but no, it works best as the way it is. But it's just like people these days forget how to make two people talking to each other interesting. Give them things to do. Let their movement also be symbolic of their inner feelings. It's not that fucking crazy to me, but it just immediately it sets it up. And then you're like, well, this Kubrick fellow sure knows how to keep things visually interesting. And as immediately as you think that, it cuts to the second scene, which is that tracking shot through the fucking trenches, and you're like, oh yeah.
The one that stuck out to me, like, let me know that how fucked this movie is gonna be, is whenever he's going to the soul, like, to talk to the trenches during that shot, is talking to everybody. He's like, "You ready to kill more Germans?" And then we meet someone who has legitimate shell shock.
Yeah.
And he's like, shell shock doesn't exist.
Yeah. But that guy, like, and he fucking hits him, like beats him.
Yeah.
And it's like up until this point, it has like this heroic tone to it, and you're like, oh, okay, we're gonna go fucking kill Germans. And then immediately that kind of like breaks it up a little bit, and that's when you're like, oh shit, we're in for it now.
Well, it's like every single one of those generals probably thought it was heroics. Most likely, I'm sure they only had the intentions of moving up in their ranks, and don't understand that they're not using, this isn't a bullet, this is a person. This is more than likely a younger person who has decided that they are going to fight for their country, and instead of making it your mission to get everybody home, you're willing to use them as fodder to progress your career. And that's when we finally get a rush of fucking fresh air with Dax and Kurt Russell's character.
Kirk Douglas, not Kurt
I
Russell.
don't know why I said Kurt Russell.
And speaking of Kirk Douglas, there's plenty of movie stars and their kids that go on to be famous movie stars, blah blah blah. But like Kirk Douglas and Michael Douglas look and sound eerily similar. And it's
absolutely,
it's insane to me. Every time I see Kirk Douglas, I'm like, damn, his son is like spitting image of him.
It's kind of like the Sheens too. When you look at like Martin Sheen and then Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez,
Yeah,
like, all three of them look eerily similar and sound similar. One of them,
yeah. And it's funny because like Kirk Douglas his character has like a heart of like gold in this, trying to save these three men. But like, it's just funny because like, well, first of all, Kirk Douglas really loved the script a lot, and he's the one who was like campaigning to get it produced. He got the backers to produce it. It was $1 million budget, which back then is a fucking good amount for 50s war movie. But then it turns out a third of that fucking budget went to Kirk Douglas's salary for the movie.
Hey man, you gotta get in where you fit in.
I know. It's just like he was like trying to like push this thing about how important this movie is and how it should be made and stuff. And then he got the budget and he's like, yeah, a third of that's gonna be mine. But you know.
Also, just I hate to rain on anybody's parade about old fucking Kirk Douglas. I'm reading through here. About 3 years before this was made, he had a rape allegation.
Oh, well, you know.
15-year-old, and he was 38 years old.
Okay.
So,
well,
but he's dead and he's in hell. And Michael Douglas is a better actor anyway. Anywho.
Yeah, go watch Ant-Man 3. Shout out Ant-Man 3.
Hey.
That's the
there's our connection.
That's a shame. Well, whatever.
It is. Whatever. Fuck your heroes, dude.
Yeah, unfortunately, you do have to separate art from artist a lot now these days.
He was the sweet old crazy man at the Oscars in like 2019 too. And I thought,
yeah,
I'm just not reading this. I'm like, oh, now I got the yick.
Well,
but
whatever.
He's a good character in this movie.
Yeah, he does. Because he's trying his best to resist against the anthill operation. Oh my god, yeah, bro.
Sponsor us, Coke.
Sponsor again. Coke, except Coke's fucking shitty company.
But Coke Zero is pretty Kino.
Coke, we're not sponsors by Coke, but it does get us through these episodes. Don't sponsor us. Actually, go read my book instead. You can buy my book, and then maybe I'll be able to soup up the harbor a little bit. But yeah, no, whatever goes from my book, I want to fucking soup up this shit, because if we get enough followers, this shit's gonna go crazy. Anyway,
and we get a studio in Fayetteville.
So yeah, Kirk Douglas's character, what's his name, Dax or something?
Yeah. Shout out to our best friend's son.
Yeah, he's trying his best to resist against this stupid fucking idea, but of course the
drunk and egotistic.
Of course, the general's like, well, it's mutiny or whatever. What's the word for it?
It's I don't fucking know.
When you insubordination or whatever, you know,
some kind of bootlicking shit.
But like, that's immediately when you see the performance by Kirk Douglas is like,
it's one of my favorite one he's done.
I wouldn't say it has nuance, but it has enough of a intricate portrayal to where it's not, you're kind of having to read his face a little bit here and there. I don't know. I really like his performance in this. And so they send out those scouts.
Well, here's the thing. Before we get Lieutenant Roger, who I fucking hate.
Yeah.
And in a drunken stupor, he leads the scouting mission that they send out to kind of figure out what the anthill is going to be. And while he's overcome with fear, He lobs a grenade and accidentally friendly fires someone.
Yeah.
Fucking bullshit. And then he falsifies the report to Colonel Dax and blames it on two guys who were just like, there. And then a third guy who's a fucking hero. Someone who's been through the shit a few times and come out on top and has saved people. And that causes them to get fucking court-martialed.
Yeah.
Which
He's
is
a fuck. And
it's
also,
so fucked.
but that scene's really cool because when they're crawling and shit, there's like a good use of shadows because when the flares go up, you can suddenly see all the bodies that are laid out on the field that you couldn't see before. And that's just, oh man, I love that part.
I do too. I really do enjoy that one.
That guy, he's a fuck. He reminds me of that dude from the League. But anyway,
he's definitely like one of my most hated characters in film now.
because he's such a piece of shit coward, but he gets shit coming to him later.
Also, just a thing. Last podcast, I kept confusing this with Patton. So at the end of the podcast last time, I was like, I'm going to be a patriotic motherfucker after this. And then I watched this. I was like, oh, this is not Patton. I forgot that. I think there's a difference there. No, I'm actually very anti this.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem. This guy's a piece of shit for being drunk and killing and throwing that grenade and shit. But if I were stuck in this war, I'd probably be a coward too.
You wouldn't be. You'd have bone spurs before you even got drafted, friend.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, like, I would be a coward, but I would never leave a man behind. But
no, I wouldn't throw a grenade at a random scout.
I'm just saying, like, in general, if I were, but first of all, I can't get drafted. But if they tried to, yeah, I'm fucking leaving. I don't know how. I'm fucking going over to Kosovo or Switzerland or something. Would you go or would you fucking draft dodge?
If I was 10 years younger, I'd enlist. Now, no fucking way.
No, I don't
no
agree.
fucking way.
I don't agree with fucking violence and killing people and shit.
No, but you remember I was going into the military whenever I was 18, 19 years old.
Yeah, well, it's better
somehow
that you did.
God got me into a drunk driving accident. So
Yeah, there you go. Speaking of your drunk driving accident, I was visiting Casher after his accident, and his face was all cut up, and then it was pretty gnarly. Yeah, but I remember you were laying in bed and you like felt on it. You're like, "There's some glass in here." I was like, "Bullshit." And then you're like, "No, there is." And you started to pull out this giant shard of glass that was still in your fucking face, as we both screamed.
Yep. And then it was like, and then shit you not. You remember? I think I called you after this. It's like months later. I'm like fiddling with it at my house, smoking hookah. Pull out a shard like that big. Conway Regional Medical Center, dude.
Yeah, fuck Conway Regional. We were anti-Conway Regional. Dude, that place is fucking insane.
Awful.
How the hell did they leave that in your face, dude?
I don't know. I have no idea. They did put a lot of drugs in me for me not to really care, though. But I do want to say we get this whole him being a fucking pussy and being drunk and falsifying the records and not. That's the worst part, is that he should have just owned up to what happened.
Yeah.
And things wouldn't have been as bad. Friendly fire accidents happen.
Yeah.
May have gotten onto him for being drunk, but I doubt it, because everybody was drinking to numb what they're doing. Hell, the fucking Nazis in World War II were taking meth tablets to be able to continuously fight the.
Yeah, well, I'm not comparing the French to Nazis.
No. I'm saying that people have war tactics.
I know, but like.
Well, you look at also I'll compare it to American armies. Then we have fucking Vietnam, where people are finding or smoking copious amounts of marijuana and doing opium and LSD in the jungles of the fucking.
I know. I'm not saying shit.
Yeah. I'm saying we get this moment of like extreme cowardice, and then very next morning we see Dak lead the very first wave of soldiers into no man's land, and he's fucking heroic. He's storming, and
he's fucking
he's scared though. You can see how scared he is.
He's like, fuck it, I gotta do it, I guess. And he's like leading them. At least, yeah, you see that he's like leading them through. This is my cat Nori. I don't know what her problem is. She didn't watch the movie. She was too fucking tired. But the funniest part, not funny, but it's just like badass that he's just holding a pistol as he runs
Oh
in.
yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
but that's like the most intense sequence of the movie, other than like them heading to die at the end. But
This is
like,
my favorite sequence of
because
the movie.
like a lot of, I mean, there's not as many World War I movies as there are World War II movies. So
Although we have been seeing a
we've been
decent
seeing some cool
influx.
ones
We've
lately.
gotten three
19,
in the past like 5 years that have been.
yeah, that's cool. But I'm saying like to see this kind of like trench warfare in a 1950s film, it looks so good, and it's really the use of sounds during this sequence is
Dude,
just overwhelming. It's chaotic and loud,
it
but it's
just feels
like
so. There's so much pressure as a watcher when you're watching it because it's consistent sound. There's no break.
it feels crushing, the sound effects, and
Yeah.
like it does more of an effect to me than actually seeing people get blown up. Like you do see a couple of people get blown up and fall over and shit, but like some war movies they rely on gore, but it's interesting how his use of sound can just be just as terrifying to me.
I do want to make a little deep cut here that if we want to explain, we can. But it sounded like Bo's credit card edit.
No, I'm not talking about that fucking thing. Okay, I'll talk about that thing. This guy, well, me and Casher were in high school. We had this class called East Lab or whatever, and it was basically just like doing different video projects and different things like that, and kind of fucking with computers and shit. And it was kind of a loose class that it was easy. We had it like I think first or second period.
It was first period every day.
Yeah, so we would just fuck around, and we would have different projects to kind of just work on getting good at Final Cut Pro and stuff like that. But there was this guy, Bo, in our class. He was heavy on like the autistic like spectrum.
Yeah.
And so he wanted to make this video for his project, and the teacher asked if we would help make it with him because we had I had been making YouTube stuff for some time since middle school. So we're like, yeah, we'll help this guy out. But this guy had the most over the top fucking script. It was like 20 minutes long. It was supposed to be like a 3-minute, 4-minute video. It's like 20 minutes long. It was about the dangers of like getting into credit card debt. It was like the focus of the video. This has nothing to do with the fucking movie. What are we? Oh
No,
yeah.
but
Okay,
yeah,
I
we had
remember
like
now. Okay, I remember now. But he had a whole sequence where there was supposed to be this insane shootout between like 50 fucking people with all these giant guns and machines and things, and we're like, what the fuck do you want us to? We don't have we're at school with like a little camera and Final Cut Pro. What do you want us to do? He's like, no, it has to be in the video. I'm like, well, okay. And so while he wasn't around, we compromised on just finding a bunch of gun sound effects and audio sounds of like war and stuff, and we just like purposely grossly like superimposed all of them over each other, like disgusting layers of just insane. It might as well have just been harsh noise, like a fucking track Cody would have done in a harsh noise show or something. Just like guns and stuff. And then we just like we took the media not found picture that shows up on Final Cut when there's something wrong with the footage, and we just put that image over it, and then we pretended like something got corrupted. Well, oh well, the video's done. So it just cuts to that sequence of all this war going on, and it really does sound like this scene in
it's so crudely done though. It's like if you take the sound editing, this is like groundbreaking.
yeah.
This is at what you would expect from someone heavy on the spectrum.
Ours sounds like a shitty YouTube poop,
Yeah.
So
It's
that's funny you brought that up. I do think about that from time to time when I hear certain movies that are just loud and over the top. I do think about our sequence. I might if you want to stick around to the end, I might put that sequence at the very end after our episode. just as you know, I don't know. It's kind of
It's fun
funny.
for context, but that's not. I was just sitting in my bed watching this, just like cracking up,
Oh, yeah.
like oh shit. But also being like super impressed because again, theirs had meaning to it. You could tell things were meticulously placed to make you feel like you were in a fucking war zone. But yeah, it is seeing Kirk Douglas just walking around all handsome with a.
Yeah, it's a very striking image, I will say.
I was super into it. And then we get the scene where he like is in the trench and trying to get more people over, and people are like refusing at this point. They're like,
There's
no.
no point. It's fucking stupid. No one even got close to the anthill.
But you
Not even
get
close.
we get the dude trying to climb out of the trench. I think it's Dax still. And the body of a dead French soldier knocks him down.
No,
They
it's like
say,
no, it's the guy who gets tried because he's like that's one of the
oh,
three
yeah,
guys.
which is such a fucking
Fucking insane. And then the general comes around and he's like calling them cowards for not advancing
You go do it then, bitch.
and like fast enough. So he orders them to fire on their own troops coordinates, which is one of the worst things I've ever seen and insane. That guy, like, why? Because at first, when he's first talking to the other guy at the beginning, the general, he was weary about this whole operation. And now, why does he feel like it's why, like his job's on the line or something? Like, no, like, I don't, I don't know why he like takes it so fucking serious. Like, wouldn't it be smarter to save as many troops as you can at this point? I don't know.
It
Because
almost feels like, is it?
I
It
guess
almost,
it's a turning point. It's 1916, and it's in the very middle of the war. So I guess
well, that's what Dax says though. It's like there's not the only thing that's going to happen if we do this is there's going to be heavy casualties to the French side and not really anything to say for it. And so, regardless, he's the guy wants to look like a hero and look like he took out so many German soldiers at the whatever cost of his men. That doesn't really matter. If you can go back up to your higher ups and be like, I killed 50 men.
yeah.
You're fucking up there. But we get into the fucking court martialing stuff because they want to initially do 100 of the soldiers for cowardice.
Which is fucked. But I do want to say, like, that scene where he tries to shoot his own soldiers is pivotal, obviously. But I love the guy who is he's like, no, I need this shit in writing, or else I'm not doing this shit. And the guy on the phone like hands it to the general, and the general's like talking shit, but the guy still stands his ground. It's like, no, what? No, I need this in fucking writing, or it's not gonna happen.
Receipts back in 1916.
Yeah, and so that guy is really a fucking hero, even though that's his like really his only scene. I don't know. I just like that a lot.
It just shows that he has fucking humanity, and it's
But
not
it's like
conquering.
the guy who left early, and then all the troops that are still in the trenches, and I don't know, like they couldn't even get up, and it just bugs the shit out of me. I don't know, but because I know,
America continue like there are people still generals and stuff continue to do shit like this to the day.
yeah, but it's
Um,
like trench warfare, dude. Glad we moved past that.
for sure.
But it's just like seeing that whole battalion of the troops sitting in there like we can't do it. Like there's nothing we can do. It's just like you see this image and you still are fueled with like rage. Like you see like there's also a lot of talk at the beginning about being a man and stuff like that. And he says, well, if you want to put on a dress and hide under the bed, you can. And it's like, Jesus Christ, dude. Yeah, put that dress on me, dog. I don't give a fuck.
Eddie boy, I'm fucking under that bed.
But it's just simple imagery like that that's impactful and stays with you. And that shot of all those troops just being in the trenches, not moving, is just like, fuck, I'd be there too. Fuck these fuckers. Like, I don't know.
I mean, it's not worth it. I mean, there are situations where, yeah, sometimes you There are a dime a dozen stories from World War One and World War Two where they persevered through things like that, and like those are the ones we learn about. But this is like one where showed where they were, and the intention of them doing a suicide attack type thing would be to glorify the leaders and make it seem like all those guys were heroes and everything like that. But the reality of it is everybody's human, and like fear will take over sometimes. Preservation of your own life is gonna take over. There's so many movies that don't show that. So many movies that don't show that, like where you could be like, I can't do this. It's always the opposite. Like they're in an impossible situation and they do it anyway, you know, which I'm sure is absolutely has happened. But every time, like, no, this is the time that it didn't happen.
Another, I've talked about this before on other shows of ours, but another aspect they don't show, and I'm not saying it's in this movie, but another aspect they don't show about World War One is that, especially I think with Britain and America, when troops came back, especially in America, I guess, and maybe Britain, but when troops came back, the public were shielded so much from the terror over there that they kind of just brushed off all the trauma these soldiers had gone through. The insanity of trench warfare was just too beyond anything these civilians could even comprehend, that it was so much that they kind of just like their brains like rejected the idea of that being that intense, and they kind of like made soldiers feel like they couldn't talk about it, and we kind of just shut them down a lot. And it was kind of a really nasty kind of culture for a little bit at post-war.
Well, it's like the World War One's the very first. It's like the origination of the word shell shock. Like,
yeah,
no one's really seen PTSD or defined it quite as well as trench warfare did. And you know, mental health and the soldiers and everything like that. There's still issues to this day of sending people over and then not taking care of our veterans when they come out. We sure as hell can use them for the pursuit of conquering and stealing and or fucking defending. I mean, in World War One and World War Two was absolutely for defending the fucking rights of the world at that point. But like, we're happy to fucking send them over, but God forbid we take care of them when they come back. But that's also another thing, and this is it's World War Two and World War One and World War Two soldiers were, and the men that went over there were a different fucking breed than what we are today. And that's not me being like a toxic man. Those fucking men went over there determined, at least on the American side, that I could say. I can't say a whole lot for the French side, which I'm sure they were the same. But like that generation was a generation that was ready to like die, like for what they thought was right at the time. The soldiers that we have going in now, there's a lot of them that are like that, but a lot of them are just doing that to get out of poverty or to fucking make sure they're taken care of, and then they're not. They're filled with false promises on wars that are not needing to be fought. Vietnam was not needed to be fought. Korea was not needed to be fought. All these wars are done to stroke the cocks of the big man in the fucking seat, you know?
Also, oil,
sweet oil. And so it's just like, I don't know. I felt it. World War One and World War Two veterans were also celebrated pretty fucking heavily when they came back. That's where ticker tape parades come from.
Right.
Come back, but then you have a war 25, 30 years later, and these men are fucking shunned when they come back because the war was unnecessary and because the citizens know it. And that's not anything on those soldiers. It's on the men that fucking, the fat pigs in their fucking suits, fucking scooping up all these people and throwing them into a fucking jungle.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's the first half of this definitely shows like the horrors of the trench warfare.
Yeah, but then it shifts to this middle act of
horror and like
the trial, basically, and everything before, like,
which is the most disgusting part of this film.
Yeah, the general calls them scum. Like he says, he's eager to have 100 men tried and killed.
That's fucked up because of a mistake that they made. Like, that's fucked up. Like that's those are the men that tried to put their lives on the line of them because you fucked up with your intel and you decided that we should fight anyway and die. Let's court-martial 100 of the soldiers for their cowardice. But it's still fucked up. They picked 3 people, and
Yeah.
two of the people were intentionally picked for like cover-ups, and one is because he's a social undesirable, as they say.
Yeah.
And the last one though is the one that really fucked me up and pissed me off, and that is because he was cited for bravery twice,
Yeah.
meaning he's received like fucking praise because he's done something outstanding to protect his people and to secure or do the mission, but he is still picked because it was randomly drawn. Your life was picked from straws, and even though you did really good, bud, we're still gonna put a fucking bullet in your head type thing.
Yeah.
And that made my stomach sink, dude. It made me so sick.
Yeah.
And then we got stand-up Dax, who's like, fuck all this. I'll represent him since I was a civilian lawyer.
Yeah.
Because no one else was going to stick up and do that because they're all cocksuckers.
Yeah, and then you think, well, okay, so during this trial, he's gonna figure some shit out to set shit straight. No, at every turn they're just like, okay, anyway, moving on. And
you get a really powerful line from that very first proceeding. For one, like you said, they try to keep undermining him. Like they don't even have a court stenographer.
Yeah.
And that's illegal. Like the judicial proceedings, you have to have that. That's your evidence. That's your receipts, and they refuse to admit any kind of evidence. And so at the end of the fucking statement, we read it off to you. He says, "Gentlemen of the court, to find these men guilty would be a crime to haunt each and every one of you till the day you die."
Yeah.
Still sentenced to death. Which, god damn it.
This is all disgusting. And it's like, when you get into the trial, you assume, okay, for the rest of the movie, they're going to figure out a way to right these wrongs, and these 3 men will be freed, and General Paul will not get what he wanted, because that's how movies work, right? No. And
we've have a slight chance. We're like, when he goes to the bar,
I know, but like that's how you think movies are supposed to go.
Yeah.
And that's what's so baller about this movie, is that unfortunately it does not.
No.
But and the first guy, I forget his name, but who's accused, his demeanor is like interesting because it's almost, he's like trying not to like crack a smile. And he's almost like his brain is like cracked, I guess, at the absurdity of this, and he's kind of not fully accepted what's going on, it seems like, until
is it the younger one or the one with the scar on his head?
No, it's the bearded goatee guy.
That's the guy who had the bravery.
Was it?
Yeah,
I thought it was the other guy.
No, the other guy was I'm pretty sure he was the one that was he got knocked out by the person falling off.
Oh no, that guy. I'm saying like the smaller dude.
But the smaller dude was the one that they picked. He was either the social undesirable or he was the one that saw something and they're like, we need to kill him because he saw what Moreau did when he was, or Roger did when he threw the grenade. Like Roger's trying to, like, it all stems from that event.
Oh yeah, I know, but
the guy that you're talking about, the reason why I'm pretty sure that's the one who was the bravery one, is because he's like on the way to the execution pole, basically saying, "I did good. Why am I doing this? Like, why am I killed? I did good. I did good." And
yeah, but he his performance is interesting. But that guy, the actor who plays him, is a fucking crazy fuck. During production of this movie, he faked his own death as a publicity stunt, and it stopped the production. And it was like a pain in the ass. And everyone's like, what the fuck? And then it just escalated. And like, why would you do that as a publicity stunt? Fake your own death. Like, what the fuck? They're shooting a movie. And it was too much. And they fired him. And so in certain scenes, there's body doubles of that guy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it's just like, what were you thinking? I don't know. That guy's weird. I read up on him though.
Yeah, no, I need to read more into that. I think I might have gotten confused too. What we're talking about here. So the younger one that gets his ass beat by the other one
Yeah.
and ends up being like an invalid from that somehow. He was the hero.
Yeah, that's what I said.
No, I'm sorry, I got that confused. I don't.
Yeah.
But you get Dax trying to give like one final push, um, with sworn statements, trying to blackmail the general into sparing the three men, and then he's like, I don't really give a shit. Basically, he's like, fuck that.
And that's the thing is like during like right after this trial, there's like a big party at that general's house.
Batman.
So that adds to it, and they go into his like grand study to talk, and he tries Douglas or Dax tries his best, but he does have those papers from all the witnesses, and the general brushes him off, and you're like, well, damn, that was the last straw, I guess.
Well,
Maybe.
this is like, who are you gonna believe, these fuckers or the general of the army? Like,
I know, but like the general, I'm saying at that party takes the papers with him, and I'm like, well, he's gonna destroy these papers or something. But thankfully, at the end, there's that return of that. But I don't know. And then we get the three guys who are getting executed. They are taken and kept in that fucking cellar looking place or whatever. And you get the most brutal line for me, which was he's like, see that cockroach tomorrow morning, I'll be dead and it'll still be alive. And it's like, fuck. And the one guy who was hit in the head and knocked unconscious from the soldier. No, I'm saying like in the trenches. Like that's the only reason he didn't go out into the fields, because he was knocked out.
they're like, how can you prove it?
He's like, oh, I've got this cut on his head, and then it's like, oh, you could have done that to yourself later. Like, what the fuck? Like at this point, you're like, as soon as they say that, you're like, yeah, there's no way that they're gonna listen to any reasoning. So helpless.
It's fucking disgusting.
Helpless and hopeless. But
and
he's like,
him, like begging for his life. Like
he's writing, and he's like, I'm trying to explain this to my wife, but there's just no way I can explain it in a way that she'll understand. And because the priest comes in and he gives it to him, and like the one guy is like, fuck it, I'm not religious, but I'm gonna give this a shot. And I'm wondering, like, if I was in this situation, because I'm not religious either, would I say fuck it, and hope for the best, or just fucking, because I get the other guy who's getting wasted and he's like shitting on the priest for bullshit, and
I'd pray.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it couldn't hurt anything.
Yeah, what else are you gonna do, man? I mean, it's in it like this is my favorite one. Another one of my favorite scenes is the walk down to the fucking execution.
Well, we're not there yet.
Well, we're pretty close to it, are we not?
I know, but I wanted to say like there's a lot of bleak, shitty, fucking fucked up scenes in this, but one of the most is when dude gets knocked out in that fight and incapacitated. Basically, the nurse guy says, well, we can put his stretcher up vertically, and then pinches.
Yeah, they literally have to like walk him out on a stretcher and tie him to that pole.
It's like, oh, he's incapacitated. Is he still gonna be executed? Yeah, we'll just prop the stretcher up. Be sure to pinch his cheeks so he opens his eyes before he's shot. I'm like, fuck, dude.
Yeah,
it's no care at all. And then the one guy, when they come to get him the next day, is just like on his hands and knees, like, please help me.
Yeah, begging.
But the best part, or one of the most satisfying, we do get a couple of satisfying things in this movie, and one of them is Dax going in and telling that fucking drunk dickhead that he's gonna have to be in charge of the firing squad. which of course he's a pussy coward and he's like trying to get out of it as best as he can.
I'm
But
sure he probably feels guilty and doesn't want to
well, of course, and that's why it's so
confront his own
satisfying. It's like,
guilt.
yeah, you have to fucking do this now, you prick. And so there are a couple of small victories in this story. Not, I'm saying thematically, not literally, but and that's one of them. And
It just sucks that whole scene when they're walking out.
yeah,
One like the one who was crying and begging earlier is just so stone faced next to the
yeah,
and then you got the other one who was just like breaking down.
yeah.
Like
Now he's full on in
what
hysterics.
what did I do? And one of my favorite things is the guy who was begging for his life earlier. He's like doesn't want the blindfold.
Yeah,
A last ditch like.
which is pretty badass. I'd probably try and do the same.
There's only one other execution I can think of in a movie, or like two others, but one specifically that is just equally like super badass. And it's at the end of the Alamo when they kill fucking Davy Crockett, and he was like, "You'll be hearing me till my last breath," and just keeps a steady scream until he gets shot in the fucking head.
Yeah.
And then there's Sophie Scholl who gets executed saying "fuck Hitler" basically.
Well, there's the whole time in probably the audience's head, including mine the first time I watched it, even as they're walking down and the drums are going and it's extreme tension, you're still in the back of your head like, okay, something's going to happen and Kirk Douglas is going to get them out of it and save these three guys. And it's getting closer and closer. And the whole time you're in denial about what's going to happen, just like some of them probably were. And it's incredible to me that he got this film, this ending, how he made it, because a lot of producers would probably want to change it to
Oh, dude, this
ending.
was banned in countries because of this, which we could quickly go into real quick. So that was probably the most interesting thing to me is how fucking controversial was this. I've got a few bullet points here I want to talk about.
Yeah, sure.
So in France specifically, both active and retired personnel from the French army vehemently criticized this film and the portrayal of the French army after it was released in Belgium. The French government actually put a lot of pressure on the European distributor and United Artists to not to release the film in France, and it wasn't shown until 1975 in France.
Wow.
In Berlin, the film was withdrawn from the Berlin Film Festival to avoid straining relationships with France. And then in Spain, Francisco Franco, this is where we missed the old XX pack. I wasn't shown there until 1986. Swiss government banned any presentations of the film until 1970, saying that it was incontestably offensive to France. And
that's pathetic, dude.
And the United States military's establishment, both at home and overseas, refused to show it due to its content.
Which makes it one badass fucking movie.
Badass fucking movie. Kubrick is the fucking goat. He might have been a crazy old hermit murdered by the government, but he was the goat. But yeah, no, it's just like they paint it in such a negative light that people don't want to look into this. This is a situation that could have absolutely have happened. And people don't want to look into
it's loosely based off of shit that they heard about. But yeah, it's like it's mostly the dialogue they say that probably piss people off, and that's so pathetic of them. Because when he confronts that other general at the party, the general's like, he's like, troops crave discipline like a child, and then he's like, you have to shoot a man now and again, blah blah blah. It's like, okay, fuck you. But yeah, so
what we get the breakfast after the executions, though.
Yeah, no, but like as they're walking down. The first time I was in denial the whole time, like thinking, oh, they're going to be safe somehow. The second time on rewatch, I got emotional watching them walk towards it, knowing that there's no good ending. And for the most part, but it's like, yeah.
It's the fact that one of them was fully accepting of his death. And the other one, up until the bullet hit his head, was crying out to be saved.
Yeah, and you can't and both are equally valid ways to react to something like this, an
Absolutely.
atrocity like this. And then you see them actually do what the medical guy said and put the stretcher up into a vertical position and pinch his cheeks and shit. Like, how evil can you be?
There's no like true winner in this movie. Which
and it's like right after they're shot, it cuts to the two leaders having a nice breakfast together and
gloating
shit.
about it. We got
Yeah, and they're like,
this.
oh, how well these guys took their how well they were shot, how well they died. They died really well. Like, fuck. And it's like the Paul and George brings up the papers of the people that saw Paul make these the request to shoot on his own men. So he does do the right thing to call that out and get him out of there.
But what's funny is that Moreau says that he's a scapegoat when he just created 3 scapegoats.
Yeah.
The cycle's never ending.
Yeah, but it's like the superior guy is the one who sets all of this in motion. He's the worst out of all of them. And
yeah,
but so it really just makes it makes him bring up this shit about Paul so insincere and so almost inconsequential.
It's to make himself look good.
I know, but it's just sad how inconsequential it is because he's immediately trying to replace him with Kirk Douglas, and Kirk Douglas, of course, is like, "How dare you?" And
that's like probably his best monologue in the entire
movie. Like it's despicable. And if he says that he can't, it's sad that he doesn't understand why he pities him, which is awesome. But also, it's good that he wasn't arrested for saying shit like that, which is he's threatened by. Because
would have been even more fucked if Dax was just like, "What are you gonna do? I'll take that promotion."
Yeah, that would be actually really fucked. But we do get at least that, another small victory is getting that guy out of there with which I guess brings us to another sad scene. A great way to end it though is those group of soldiers who haven't been told that they're going to be put back on the front lines yet, and they're just in the moment enjoying themselves, watching this poor fucking German girl sing who obviously doesn't want to be there, and you feel bad for her, and because it's obviously a really creepy situation that she's being forced to sing for these soldiers.
A prisoner of war at that point.
Yeah, which is fucked. But then you also have this conflicting feeling of feeling bad for these soldiers who are unaware that most of them are about to go die, and this is like their last little moment of peace. So it's a lot of gray area in the ending, which is another baller move by the boy.
Well, it's like I have a couple little tangents here.
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie Fury?
Fury. No, that's the guy who directed Suicide Squad. No, I haven't seen it.
It's the one with like Brad Pitt and Shia LaBeouf.
I missed that one.
There's a scene in it where he humanizes the German citizens, because all the soldiers really want to be like very abusive towards his family.
Yeah.
And Brad Pitt puts his fucking foot down and like basically chews them out, because that's like the soldiers themselves. It just kind of, this reminded me of that, because they just don't remember that not all Germans were Nazis.
Yeah.
And that not all, like, they're human too. You're gonna obviously, like, there's people who come back from war today and think all Islamic people are fucking terrorists and things like that, and they have to get out of their mindset. And them using this fucking German girl to sing a sentimental folk song from Germany to entertain them, forcing her to, they forget the humanity there as well.
Yeah.
But also about the whole being happy and not knowing you're about to be shipped off. My dad still tells me stories about when he was he was on a submarine when he was in the military, and he thought he was going home, and one of the meals that night was gonna be like lobster and steak and like all these great meals. And while they're eating this meal, they are told over the intercom that they have another year of service overseas. And so my dad forcibly made himself puke on the table.
Wow.
He was like, "I'm eating your fucking food then."
Yeah.
But we have that whole thing because Dax is watching them and he looks like he's, enjoying it. And then he's like remembering Like, I've got to inform these people. And he's like, I just can't do it. His
Yeah.
face kind of like goes from like a solemn thing to like kind of really just like depressed about it.
Yeah.
Walks off. Great way to end that fucking film.
Yeah, great way to end it, because
Stanley Kubrick's the fucking man.
the realities of war. And yeah, so that's Paths of Glory. One of the better war movies out there, I think.
Distinctly one of the most anti-war movies of that generation for sure, and still to this day very poignant anti-war.
The fact that it was sheltered from people for so long in different regions is always a good sign, I think, of a important movie.
That seems to happen with a lot of the films we do about war on this podcast,
or just films in general, like certain. We watch a lot of movies that have been banned. Pink Flamingos, so,
Pink Flamingos. No, like we did Come and See, and that one was pretty hard to fucking find, and that's another staunchly anti-war film. And like all the war films, any of the war films that Kubrick's made is very much from the standpoints of fuck the war type thing. I think actually after this movie is when he started to become a hermit too, which we could do a whole fucking podcast on good old Kubrick just as a person. I'm very curious to know if his like demanding perfectionist attitude how prevalent it was on this film, because we always hear stories about how he's like,
it was there. They the scene where they're eating their last meal, he did 62 takes, and they were like having to cook up duck for each scene and shit.
God damn, don't we love autism, dude?
It was like
yeah,
it was putting them through the ringer.
Okay, yeah,
so it was definitely already prevalent.
Hell yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
That's my boy. It's one of my favorites, if not my favorite.
One of my favorite examples of that's not from Kubrick is Irvin Kershner in Empire Strikes Back. How many times he made
Star
Luke
Wars and our Marvel
many times he makes Luke hit his fucking head on Yoda's house on the roof, and
you know who's another one?
Mark Hamill's getting fed up with it. Anyway, yeah.
Honestly, another good example of that is in the American movie, fucking Mark Borchardt making the dude slam his head into the fucking cabinet and pull brakes.
I notoriously don't do enough takes sometimes. Like we do 2 or 3 and we're like, that's good enough, I guess. So,
yeah, but that's okay. I mean, at the same time,
obviously it's a different scale. With him, you have to think all these movies pre-2000s, they're burning through fucking film, which is expensive.
Film, yeah.
Me, I could just be like, oh, let's just get another SD card, But so you definitely think about that. 62 takes, all for one thing of them eating their last meal. It's like you're wasting so much film.
R.I.P. to the goat.
And then you have to go through all those reels and find the exact one you wanted. Fuck all that. Digital forever, baby.
Digital forever.
Digital forever.
Forever.
Let's see. Yeah. So that's our Paths of Glory takes. Next week on the Harbor, we're gonna be talking about a stupid fucking movie called Fanboys. That's and the age of 2000s.
We watched that
rise of fandoms on the internet into the 2000s, and what kind of escalated with Fanboys. So look forward to that next week. Thanks for watching, everybody. Now enjoy our project from high school. Goodbye.
Dr. Reaper, hate credit cards, for they are more evil and vile than I am when they are misused. I love credit cards, for they allow me to buy things to be a serial killer.
Only $8.55.
What the heck are you doing here? I wanted to buy your site with my credit card. There are
are several problems with that. Number one, I hate you and credit cards. Problem number 2, I said no to you buying my side 1 million times. Trust me, I've counted that many times. Trust me, I counted them all the 1 million times. Trust me, I counted how many times. I told you the next time you asked, I would kill you. Oh, crap.
History projects. All right. Tomorrow we'll just go down there and I'll be. I hate credit cards, for they make the middle class deeper and deeper in debt. How the heck am I supposed to make money? The entire middle class are in debt!
Did you just say debt?
Okay, go.
Government pays the bill for the poor.
Yeah, from taxes that should be used to control the United States. Debt, you idiot!
I miss my old job of fighting dragons.
Shut up, Leroy, and get back to work. Do I just walk in front of... I will destroy all credit card union workers with my minigun. I am Contios.
Real quick, it's only for inside.
At least I destroyed one credit card company.
Why didn't you use a debit card, criminal scum?
What's a debit card?
It's somewhat like a credit card, but instead, a debit card uses money you already have from your checking account, as to which a debit card uses money you don't have.
What?
Okay.
Why did I not recommend people to use a debit card?